guys are doing the odd ones, I want to do a couple of even ones, right? Just to get you guys warmed up, and then you guys could go back and try the odd ones. Number 20, for example. What's the first thing to do there? It's an equation. -2. Yeah, you want to get the equation equal to 0. And what you do to one side, you must do to the other. So since you can't really subtract 2 from n or from 15n squared, we're going to rewrite it. 15n squared minus n minus 2 equals 0. Is there anything in common in all three terms? No. So you can't pull out a GCF. So we must continue on with our steps, right? Our steps. Here they are. And we're using the shortcut method. I think that's best, the quickest. Step 1, A times C. Step 2, make a list. And then we have the other steps right there. So let's do step 1, A times C. What is 15, the A value, times C, which is -2? What's 15 times -2? -30. Thank you. Now, step 2 is to make a list of -30. -1 times 30, -2 times 15, -3 times 10, -4 doesn't work, -5 times 6, and that's about it. Those are all the possible ways of multiplying two numbers to get -30 besides changing the signs. After you make the list, all you have to do is start combining. If you do 30 minus 1, that's 29, and the middle value b is not 29. The middle value b is actually a -1, right? So when you combine those pairs of numbers, which one gives you a -1? Which pair of numbers gives you a -1 when you combine them? If I combine -3 and 10, what do I get? I get 7. That's not 7. So which pair of numbers works? -5 and 6. If I add -5 plus 6, what do I get? I get a +1, and I know that I need a -1. So I have the right numbers, I just have the wrong signs. So let's switch them to a +5 times a -6. So that's the right pair of numbers from step 2. Now it's time for step 3. And step 3 is to set up that situation where you have the parentheses with the AX and the AX. So let's do that. I want to do it right here. What is AX in this case? 15n. The A value is 15. We don't have X's, we have N's. So I want to put a 15n right here and a 15n right there. Now, what about the blank spots here? What do I fill this in with? With the 5, the +5, and the -6. So put a +5 there, a -6 here. And the fourth and final step, right? This is where I call the magic step. It's magic time. You want to get a ta-da. And what is this magic? You're going to reduce each binomial by dividing it by its GCF if possible. So you're not going to actually factor out anything. You're just going to magically divide the 15 and the 5 by what? By 5. Again, you're just going to magically divide by 5, and you're going to end up with 15 divided by 5 is 3. 5 divided by 5 is 1. The other one, we're going to magically divide this one by what? Nothing? I can't divide by 2, but I could divide by 3. So if I divide both by 3, magically, we're going to end up with a 5n and a -2. If you divide 6 by 3, it's 2. Again, this is an equation, so we still have it equal to 0. Now that I've factored, I want to split and solve. So I am going to split it. If I have something times something and it equals 0, that means that the first something, 3n plus 1, that could equal 0. Or the second something, 5n minus 2, that could also equal 0. So when I solve it, I'm going to have a -1, 3n equals -1. Final step would be to divide by 3, n equals -1/3. That's one answer. The other answer, +2, you're going to end up with 5n equals 2. My final step would be to divide by 5, and n equals 2/5. So you get two answers, -1/3 and +2/5. It is a lot of work. That's why I only gave you the odd ones. right? Do the odd ones, and you should be able to have enough space right here. But if you did all of them, you're not going to have enough space. I don't want to discourage you, though. If you want to go for all of them, go for it. Better understanding for it. These are the hardest type of questions that you're going to have on the big test next week. All right? 27? You know, on this video, I want to stick to the even ones. All right? Is there any even ones that you would like to see? 30? No? 26? 26 looks good. What do you do on 26? This is the last one, by the way. What do you do on 26? You could subtract 9z squared this way, but then you'd have a negative a value, and that's not good. So you could move it over that way and then multiply everything by -1, or you could just move both that way. Or, and here's another thing, guys, if you notice that your entire equation, I'm talking about every single term in that equation, the 9, the 6, and the 5, if you notice what I've noticed, they're all divisible by what? By 3. So if you want to save yourself a factoring step, if you notice that everything is divisible by 3, you could do that. You could divide this by 3, this by 3, that by 3. Why? Because it's an equation. An equation, whatever you do to one side, as long as you do it to the other, you could do it. So let's divide everything by 3. It'll make it a little easier for us. We'll have a 3z squared equals -2z plus 5. And now let's move both the -2z over to the left side by adding 2z and adding 2z. And let's also, at the same time, I'm doing 2 steps in one here. I want to subtract the 5 as well and subtract the 5 as well, which I can't really do the adding or the subtracting because none of them are like terms. So I'm going to rewrite the whole left side. The whole left side is going to be 3z squared plus 2z minus 5. So we have 3z squared plus 2z minus 5 equals 0. And that's our quadratic trinomial. And this quadratic trinomial has the a value of 3, the b value of 2, the c value of -5. So then we're going to do step 1 of that long process. Step 1 is multiplying a times c, which is -15. And then step 2, make a list of the multiples of -15, -1 times 15, or -3 times 5, and that's it. Out of those two pairs of numbers, which one gives us the b value of 2? This one gives us 14, this one gives us 2. So this is the correct pair of numbers that we want. And then we jump to step 3 over here. Step 3 is where you set up your ax and your ax. So let's take a look at our ax term. Our ax term happens to be 3z. So here we go. 3z right there, 3z right there. And in these blank spots, we put the two numbers from step 2, the -3 and the +5. So we have a -3 and a +5. Step 4, the magic step 4, is to reduce your binomial by whatever possible. So the 3 and the 3 could both be divided by what? 3. By 3. So when I divide both of those by 3, it'll become just 1z minus 1. And the other binomial, you can't even, bless you, you can't even divide it by anything. So you're just going to rewrite it. 3z plus 5. Now this is our completely factored form, but it was an equation, so you still have the equal 0, which means now you have to split it and solve using zero product property. This times this equals 0, so the first something could be 0, and the second something could also be 0. So that's how we get those two simple equations. This answer is easy, +1, z equals 1. The other answer, you have to do 2 steps, subtract 5, subtract 5. You're going to end up with 3z equals -5. Final step would be to divide by 3, divide by 3. So z equals -5/3. That's your second answer, z equals -5/3. So those are your two answers for number 26, which, by the way, you don't have to do the even ones. You only have to do the odd ones. I'm stopping because I'm tired.